I've warned of an upcoming Wag the Dog move by Trump. There are links in the written post. And it appears that he's now teed that up. Trump and his war drum pounding national security advisor John Bolton, a man who never saw a place where he didn't want to start a war, have ordered an aircraft carrier group and bombers to the Persian Gulf, quote, to send a clear and unmistakable message to the Iranian regime that any attack on United States interests or on those of our allies will be met with unrelenting force, close quotes. Bear in mind that Bolton stridently promotes regime change in Iran, a policy which didn't work so well for us in Iran's neighbors, Iraq and Afghanistan. Said Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, quote, it is absolutely the case that we've seen escalatory action from the Iranians, and it is equally the case that we will hold the Iranians accountable for attacks on American interests, close quote. Further, he said, quote, the fact that those actions take place, if they do, by some third-party proxy, whether that's a Shia militia group or the Houthis or Hezbollah, we will hold the Iranian leadership, directly accountable for that, close quotes. That sounds a lot like we're on track for an iteration of the August 10, 1964 Gulf of Tonkin resolution, a response to an attack on a U.S. Navy destroyer by North Vietnamese torpedo boats, which never happened. The story was a complete fraud. That phantom attack was used as an excuse to allow President Johnson to escalate the Vietnamese civil and anti-colonial war into a full-blown U.S. war without requiring Congress to put on its big boy and big girl pants and declare war. That fraud-inspired U.S. involvement killed 58,000 Americans and untold hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese. The important point for now is that we've never turned out a president in time of war. Johnson was reelected 3 months after his fraud. Trump is highly unlikely to win re-election in 2020 without help. And we already know that he has no hesitation to do whatever serves him, regardless of the cost to others or to the Constitution. So keep your focus on his belligerence, his lies, and the excuses coming from the White House for attacking Iran. That new war will start before November 3rd, 2020, and our amoral president and our spineless members of Congress, most of whom have never served in a war, will once again fail to honor their oath of office. They will send someone else's kids into harm's way. We'll have started another war that's impossible to end, and the Air Force Base in Dover, Delaware, will once again ramp up its unloading of flag-draped coffins. But that's okay because Trump will have wagged the dog and been reelected. And just in case Trump's contemptible wag the dog re-election scheme doesn't look strong enough to him next year, don't be surprised if he declares a state of national emergency, citing his war in Iran, and cancels the 2020 election. That will be the end of our glorious experiment in self-rule. Rest in peace, American democracy. Finally, that Trump is an enemy of democracy is indisputable, what with his blatant and flamboyant breaking of our laws and complete disregard for democratic norms. But he's not alone, and I'm not talking now about other autocrats. You absolutely must read Carol Cadwalader's post in The Guardian and watch her embedded TED Talk. There's links in the written post. You'll come to understand more deeply and clearly how the Russians bent our 2016 election, how the engineers of fraud choreographed Brexit to the detriment of all of Great Britain, and how broken is liberal democracy around the world. Read, then watch, then take action, because democracy is a participation sport. And as Tom Hartman says, tag, you're it. I'm Jack Altshuler.